Hey everybody, it's Romania Black. I'm feeling very festive with this outfit. I got off work and I was like, I want to read Yona the Dawn volume 25 because it's been a couple days since I've read volume 24 and I need to know what's going to happen between Soo-Won and Yona. So I feel like I'm matching the cover very well because I'm looking at the cover of volume 25 now and we have Yona and Soo-Won on it. So I'm like, gee, I can't imagine what's going to happen with that. So... it's just, man, last volume there was all this stuff going on. There was so much tension. It was just everything. It was just Yona meeting with Soo-Won, Yona and Hawk trying to meet with Soo-Won, Soo-Won sending Min-Soo. This war is brewing. Soo-Won's planning to go on the offensive and attack. We don't know what's gonna happen with our dragons. Old what's his face, creepy boy, not his name escapes me at the moment because my brain is like on overload. I'm so excited for this volume. But yeah, he was creepy. And at the very end, old Kishuk tried to get Yona's game and she's like, nah, and she wants to meet with Soo-Won. So I'm pretty excited. Hawk is trusting. He knows that she's in good hands because Algira is with her. Algira. It was noted in the YouTube comments that his name is pronounced Algira, not Algira. So I was like, Algira. It sounds like Bagheera. So it's like the Jungle Book. I'm like, I'm fine with that. So Algira is with her, so she should be fine. But she's going to be with Soo-Won. I can only hope that she talks him out of impending war with Xing. But I don't know if that's going to happen or not. And then there was a comment about the dragons, but I want to wait until after this volume and see what happens. There was a comment by Be Happy about the dragons getting beaten up because it was really sad, and they were talking about how it seems like why couldn't they defend themselves? And I was talking to them in the comments saying, well, I think because they didn't want to start this all-out war, they wanted to try to give Tao and Soo-Won benefit of the doubt that they could resolve this without there being an all-out war happen. And so I feel like depending on when this arc resolves itself, when we get to the end of this arc, I'll have more to say about that and kind of look back in hindsight and see why Kusanagi made the decisions that she did. But I want to reserve judgment until the end of the arc. Oh, and by the way, they kissed last volume. I almost forgot Hawk and Yona had a kiss. So there was that! How can I forget? But yeah, so I'm like, the cat's out of the bag. The Thunder Beast is out, y'all. The Thunder Beast says he loves her. She kisses him. Like Kusanagi, we've been slow burning for 23 volumes and you drop this on us now? Okay, let's go. So Soo-Won's back in the picture. Oh, and Yona gave up her hairpin. It's like everything happened last volume. It's a mess. So I can't quite, God, it's going to drive me insane not knowing the name. Mizari, there we go. I was like, it's going to drive me insane not knowing his name. That creepy boy who wants to kill Zeno and watch him resurrect himself. Ugh. So I poured myself a glass of tea. I'm like, let's do this. I'm ready for volume 25 and all of its shenanigans and whatever it brings. So we're not going to waste any more time. We're going to dive into volume 25 of Yona of the Dawn and see what happens. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Oh my god. So yeah, so this volume, the dragon's protecting Yona because she is the reincarnation of the Crimson Dragon King. It's pretty much confirmed at this point. Yeah, so they all, not Kija and Jaeha them, they did not do it themselves. The dragons, like, came out of their bodies to protect Yona. Holy shit. Okay. Wow, we got 6 chapters in this deal. We actually got a lot of chapters. We had 6 chapters and a bonus chapter. I feel like, I know we get that many chapters normally. Maybe one of the chapters was, I feel like looking at the chapters, maybe they're the same length. Weird. It feels like this volume was longer, which is crazy, but it was about the same length. It was maybe only a couple pages longer than it normally is, but holy cow, there were so many parallels with this volume. There were so many character parallels. There were just themes that were coming up. Hawk's being with Yona, like, we gotta talk when this is all over. I'm like, I have a feeling it's gonna be a while before they get to talk, unfortunately. Anytime a character's like, we gotta have a talk, it's like there's gonna be a bunch of shit happen to keep them from talking. But oh man, We need to talk about this. Holy cow. So, for the record, authority, I freaking love this chapter. Yona just slamming down her energy like, no, I am not going to let you do this. You're not going to have your way. So Judo and Soo-Won obviously knew that Yona was live. Nobody else did, especially not Kishuk, and he's pretty mad about it, obviously, and none of the soldiers did. And I like that the first thing that Soo-Won thinks to himself is, where's Hawk? First thing he thinks, he's like, Hawk's not here. Without him, she's risen. Yeah. So I wondered when he said without him, if Soo-Won meant that without Hawk, that there would be nobody to stop him on the battlefield. Without Hawk, Yona was not, she was like risking her life. She was going to be easily at risk of being hurt. Like, why isn't, I wonder if Soo-Won's like, why is Hawk not here? And so he thinks that Hawk, here, this is the funny thing about the relationship that's developed between Yona and Hawk, and that this volume is a nice insight into kind of how Soo-Won thinks of Yona. And when he thought Hawk was captured, right? Because there's no way Hawk would leave Yona. No, why? She needs protection. But the thing that's happened is that Yona and Hawk have developed their relationship throughout the course of this series, that they've reached this point of trust between one another, that Hawk's like, no, I know that with Algira with you, you'll be fine. You'll be okay. And Yona's like, yes, I will be. And so they've reached this point of trust that it's like, they're fine. They're going to be okay. And Soo-Won just didn't think that was possible. And so that's a nice little like showing how their relationships have changed over the course of this series. I thought it was Judo talking about if they knew that His Majesty was alive, but it's Kishuk. Kishuk is going to be the one that's going to be like, you guys knew that she was alive this whole time and you didn't say anything. Like, he's going to be a problem to deal with when this is all said and done. I have a feeling. And so I like that Algira is like, Princess Tao wants to speak with you. And so I like that Yona's like, look, Tao wants to become part of Kohka. But Soo-Won, we're going to talk about these similarities between Soo-Won and Korin and Yona and Tao, because there's some really big similarities there and parallels between those two pairs. And so Yona, she brings up Yuhan. She's like, do you know what he did to Xing 17 years ago? And Soo-Won's like, I bet you were thinking about the heads at the palace gate. When he says that sort of thing happens in war, it's so cold. And Yona's like, oh, is that how it's going to be? Oh, okay. He's like, are you saying that you can... She's like, are you saying you condone that behavior? And he says it depends on the circumstances. And Yona's like, well, I don't think that at all. I don't think you should ever do that. She's like, okay, I see how this is. I see how this is going to go down. We've got an author note before we start this. Yona the Dawn, Volume 25. Thank you for following the series so long. A while ago, I wondered what sort of people are among my readers. In response, many of you have sent me letters of introduction and messages telling me what kind of events you enjoy in this romance light series. I appreciate that so much. Back in August, I did a signing in Osaka. I was able to meet many of my readers, including many people who've been reading my work since my debut and people who send me enthusiastic letters. It was a very enjoyable event. We were all nervous and didn't talk much, but I could tell how you feel. I also like to give my deepest thanks to those who wish they could have been there. I'm sure she's like, oh my God. And then Yona, she plays this card, and I was like, oh my God. She's like, fine. You're playing it cool, Soo-Won. You're not giving me a reaction. You're just saying all these things to keep cool amongst your men. Fine, I'm going to lay down my Blue Eyes White Dragon right now and just do this and say, this is why Uncle Yuhan could never have become king. And she's like, that got a reaction out of him. I'm like, Yona, my girl. I was like, oh my gosh. She's like, nah, She's like, yeah, this is why your dad wasn't fit to be king. It's like, ooh. And Kishuk is like, we should get out of here. And she's like, why are you in a rush? Let's have a chat. We haven't had a real conversation since the day everything changed. I'm like, my girl is just fire. She is like, I am sick and tired of it. Sick and tired. And he's like, why am I just staring at her in silence? It's the same thing happened to Kumji, right? It's like, she has no cards left to play. I don't have time to waste here. So why can't I move? And then we hear she's the reincarnation of the Crimson Dragon King. And Soo-Won looks kind of disdainful at that. Like, Soo-Won's like, I don't believe any of that garbage. But he's seen the Dragon Warriors, so it's like, do you not believe any of that garbage? Mm-mm. And so he asks if she had a hand in the fire tribe and all of that. And she's like, she just gives him a look like, what do you think? I was like, yes! Yes! I was like, Yona, you sweet princess. This is why you are waifu of the year. You're amazing. I love it. Mm-hmm. And so Kishuk's like, take him into custody. He's like, restrain them, kill him. Like, we got to get rid of him once we don't have enough witnesses. And then you know who comes to her rescue? Riri. Bestie, best girl, best friend comes to her rescue. I freaking love it. Kishuk is going to have like a come to Jesus moment when they get back at the palace with Soo-Won and Judo, because he's like, you all knew about this, you didn't say anything. And Judo and Soo-Won are like, well, about that. But I love Riri. She's like, my water tribe people are here. They're going to listen to me. And so I love how Riri takes control of the situation, and how she's like, the Sky Tribe people, some of them might have been involved in King Il's assassination. Like, they don't, Yona doesn't need to deal with this. So I like that she gets the Water Tribe people. She's like, you guys probably lost family members to Nadai. Yona fought to protect you guys and to help solve that problem. It's like, it's an insult to their memories if you harm her. And just like that, it sways so many of the Water Tribe troops. And you see Soo-Won just looking at her like you're just like a thorn in his side, right? And then they all like change on a dime. Like, yo, you have our gratitude. Like, she has that kind of influence, right? Mm-hmm. And then like Kishuk and Judo are like, what do we do? And I love that they just have this girl bonding moment. She's like, hey, I gotta talk later, but thank you so much, Riri. And she's like, Soo-Won, allow me to repeat myself. Please settle things with Xing peacefully. Like, this girl, like, she is staring him flat in the face, like not blushing, not turning away. It's like, yeah, the childhood crush is over. And she's like, I still care about you, but you need to do the right thing, and you're not doing it right now. And here's the thing, Soo-Won and Korin are very similar. They are very guided by their past and the hatred that is tied to it. Korin is tied to the hatred she has for Yuhan and what he did to her people. Soo-Won is tied to the hatred of King Il and what happened to his father. And then he wants to take back the lands his father once had. So both Korin and Soo-Won are so intricately tied to their pasts. But Yona's like, nah, I'm moving forward. I'm thinking of forward march. But you don't need to be attacking Xing. That's only going to kill people that don't need to die. There's no reason for this war, especially when one of the rulers is offering to become a state of Kohka without one. She's like, what's the point of a giant fight if we can totally avoid it? Why would we do that? So she's like, I believe that you have no desire for so many people to die. She's like, prove me wrong, Soo-Won. And then he says that he'll hold the summit, and Kishuk's mad about it, but who cares about him? And he's like, if both Princess Korin and Princess Tao come, I will acknowledge the right to self-govern and the freedom of ideologies and faith, but I get their politics and military freedoms. So he's like, I'm going to control their military and anything that has to do with diplomacy, but they get to basically just live in a state of everything's normal. It's just part of Kohka. He's like, okay. And she's like, I'll convey your answer. Lend me a horse. And Algira and her just ride off. And everybody's just murmuring about her being Yona and her being back. And I love that Riri's like, so this shouldn't undermine your position, right? Like, I love it. She's like, I'm aware that I owe you a lot too, but I don't want you to kill her. She means a great deal to me. And that's such that, and Soo-Won just looking like, because it's that look of saying either, well, she still means a great deal to me, and I'm just having to do these things because of the goal, or she stopped meaning so much to him, and now it's kind of thrown in his face that she means so much to other people. It's like, Soo-Won is such a mystery box, but man, these last couple of volumes have soured me a little bit on his character. Like, I still like Soo-Won's character a lot, and I want to know more, but some of the links he goes to convey this presence and this persona of himself, I'm like, dude, and I'm so glad Yona calls him out on it, and she's like, no, this is stupid. quit being somebody you're not. Like, I love it. I'm like, Yona, my girl. And so then we go back to the Wind Tribe. Oh, Taeyu. Taeyu is such a sweetheart. I love him in this. I love that he's taking up Hawk's mantle and becoming the new Wind Tribe leader. I love it. I freaking love Taeyu. He's great. He's amazing. And so then we have Priest Gobi. If you told me there was going to be a secret third-party antagonist in this volume, in this arc, I'd have been like, wait, what? But no, it's really Gobi. It's Gobi and all them. They are, and they're priests. So, okay, all right, we're going to tie this to Yuhan, aren't we? We're going to tie this to Yuhan because Yuhan hated the priests. He drove the priests from the palace. I'm wondering if Gobi and this whole anti-war faction, they said 17 years ago they camped out on an island to escape the war. I wonder if they started this whole war 17 years ago and they have just reaped the benefits of it afterwards, and Yuhan maybe saw how corrupt this priesthood was, and so he decided he didn't want the same thing to happen at Kiryu's palace in Kohka, so he drove the priests away from there. That would make a lot of sense. Okay, I can see that now. So I like this series, and what Kusanagi is doing is possibly playing with the idea of shades of gray, and that that maybe Yuhan had a reason for driving the priests out, and there was a reason for that. It would also tie to Soo-Won's belief in believing the power of the people, not of gods. So, because there's a big ordeal in this about the people praying to the priest, asking for God's help, and he's like, oh yes, it'll work. But it's like, as Zeno kind of pointed out, God's not going to just answer every little whim. No, that's not how this works. So I like that all of these things are tying together in the narrative. They're coming from all sides and tying together in different ways. That's really cool. I like it a lot. So Voldo knows the priest Gobi and all them, this guy that looks like he's been around for a while, and they want to keep Princess Tao around. We find out that he wants to keep Princess Tao around because they want to marry her off to Soo-Won. How convenient. I'm like, poor Soo-Won. Soo-Won's like the most asexual and or gay guy in this series. And everybody's trying to pass him off. Everybody's trying to marry him off to some woman. And he's like, do y'all not get it? Like, it's great. I love at the end of chapter 141, though, the parallel of seeing Hawk at the top and seeing Yona, both of them facing the same way, and the priests in between. It's a great composition shot. Chapter 141, Authority, is so freaking good. I love chapter 141. It may be one of my favorite chapters in this series so far. It's just Yona being so badass and just throwing it in Soo-Won's face. I'm like, yes, I love it. It's great. Naguro. I can't believe we're having 5 stars dying left and right. It's like Kusanagi was like, well, you don't want me to kill the dragons? Well, there's going to be death in this series. I guess we'll kill off the parallel version of them instead. We'll kill off the parallel Xing version of the Dragon Warriors. Let's do that instead. And I'm like, no! Naguro. Oh my god, and Mizari. I actually felt for Mizari in this, kind of. And Yotaka. Oh my god. A gathering wave. So yeah, so everybody, the priest and the anti-war faction descend upon the mansion. Again, the parallels. Quarren and Soo-Won look so similar. They look so similar. They have the same getup, the same armor, everything. She's chopped her hair off. They look so similar. And so he lies. I don't think the king's in critical condition. I don't think so at all. I think he lies to get her and Tao to go back. Right? I just, God, I love that. And this whole part here on page 39 where he's like, your sister will bring love and peace to this nation. You and your father refuse to hear the voice of God. Your personal hatred is leading you down the path to hell. And she's like, I know. That whole thing too is the idea of Tao being similar to King Il and believing in like the prayer and everything and the temple and all the like divinity and everything and the religious aspects of everything. Whereas Quarren and her father kind of resemble Soo-Won and Yuhan, who believe more in the power of people and refused to hear the voice of God. That's kind of like Soo-Won shunning out the gods, saying he doesn't need the dragon warriors. He doesn't need their powers. He doesn't want any of that. He wants to rely on people. Korin is the same way. So it's like, you guys aren't so different, you and her. Maybe Korin and Soo-Won can hook up. No, she could be his beard, sure. Why not? So, oh man. But she's like, you want Tao to become queen because she'd be easier for you to control. And I like that. I like the idea that, again, we had these Yuhan and Il parallels where if Tao was in charge, she seems like she'd be easier to control. But Korin says that she's far more stubborn and cautious than I. Which I wonder if that's parallel to King Il. That King Il was more cautious and stubborn than Yuhan. I don't know. I'm seeing lots of parallels between Yona and Soo-Won and Korin and Tao, and lots of parallels between Yuhan and Il and Korin and Tao. That it's like, it's a pyramid of parallels throughout. It's interesting. But yeah. And so the priest was sketchy to begin with, but I really didn't believe he would hire mercenaries to kill the 5 stars. I did not see that coming. I was like, he's shady. Something shady's going on. But I didn't picture it would be like that. No. Poor Naguro. And him with the scars. And we see the scars are from battle that he had back in the day when he met Korin. And of course, Yutaka has the beauty cream. He's like, oh, if only Voldo was here. You know, Yutaka is pretty tsundere. Yutaka's pretty tsundere about Voldo. He acts like Voldo, he doesn't care about him, but it's like, I bet you do. I bet if you see Voldo again in the next volume, you'll care. It's like, The anti-war faction accuses Princess Korin. Yeah, we get this whole thing. And that whole thing of her with the heads when she was 10 years old. And she does like the Mulan thing where she chopped off her hair at 10 years old and spent 17 years. So she's 27. Spent the last 17 years fighting. Oh my God. And we see Naguro as a young soldier. Oh my gosh. I've got another manga note. I created a bonus Yona drama CD for Hana to Yume issue 2, which goes on sale the same time as this comic. Thank you very much. Chapters 124 to 125 from Volume 22, the bonus chapter Take Care from Volume 23, and an additional story Take Care 2 have been made into a CD. This spectacular CD stars the usual cast of Yona and her friends, Riri, Ayura, Tetra, Soo-Won, and Gunte. It's only available for 2 weeks once it goes on sale, so don't forget about it. The additional story Take Care 2 is written just for this CD, and it continues the story about the cough drops that make people go berserk. To be continued in the next column. So Yutaka says that they have nowhere to go, and Mizari has nowhere to go either. That it seems like they're kind of outcasts who, again, and there's parallels between the 5 stars and the 4 dragon warriors and Hawk. There's parallels between them. Like, I definitely see the parallels. And so it's curious, but you see Mizari and Yutaka saying we have nowhere to go to, and it's kind of like the dragons, like, where did they go? They've kind of been driven away from everywhere else, and now they're here. And so then we have this whole thing with Tao and Korin, and Korin seems like she realizes that what she's doing is going to be like catastrophic and cause her people a lot of pain, but she just doesn't know any other options on the table. And so Tao has faith that Yona will come back, but Korin is not so sure. And then we have the whole thing with the priest Gobi coming after them. Oh my God. But yeah, I love that we see Algira ride back with Yona, like them all come back in Hawk's face. And I'm sorry, but Hawk like lifting her up and then like, oh, they're like so close to kissing each other. And he just like is so close to her face. It's like the most wonderful thing ever. I'm going to get a picture of it. Gonna get a picture of it. I'm like, oh my God. Like, I love that. I love how close they are in that moment. It's great stuff. And she's like, I got things to do. We can handle this later. And so I love that Hawk takes his little mini him, Teiyu, and says, you're general now. You lead our people. He's only a year younger than Hawk. How? How is he only a year younger? He looks like he's 12. And he is only, you mean he's like 17? Hawk, to be fair, in Teiyu's defense, Hawk does look a lot older than he is. And he's a huge man. But still. So Yona and Hawk run away from the priest. They're like, get away from us. I'm like, glad Yona had some common sense to be like, peace out. And then, but they get to the mansion and the assassins have already, they shot Neguro through the heart. Oh my gosh. A girl was carrying the head of one of her people as she walked. And so we see, God, the image of Corin with the heads all around her and carrying one throughout the city is terrifying. I'm like, Kusanagi chose violence this volume. Kusanagi was like, oh, this is a shoujo? I'm going to draw this little girl holding a severed head walking around the village. Because she can. And then, oh my God, I love young Neguro is so handsome. Like, he's so handsome. Like, he looks like he's in his 20s there. And she's like, you still have your head. And he's like, yes, I'm alive. Like that, just the way she drew, and my dog is like hacking up a lung over here eating a bone. The way that she drew Neguro is beautiful. Like that expression. And just hugging him. Letting out that sob of relief. I'll devote my entire life to her. And then we see him later, like older. No matter how many times I might be wounded for it. I'm like, Neguro. He died standing up, damn it. Like, I was not anticipating. Like, I did not think we'd have, like, character deaths. Like this, and Hawk gets 2 arrows in the shoulder. I'm like, Hawk, my dude. And he's like, it's just a scratch. And she's like, it's a flesh wound. But yeah, Neguro, my dude. Oh, I hate it. Like him. And there's so many parallels here, too. Like the parallels of Neguro to Corin. And you parallel that with Hawk to Yona. There's parallels there of them both protecting these 2 women that they love. Gah! Man, you know what? In hindsight, side note, if Riri was in Corin's place, she would have tried to marry Neguro a long time ago because he's clearly over 35, is like a daddy figure. She would have totally been on that. Good thing Riri wasn't here. And he's like, don't move away from me. He's like, my body's already a shield. Use it. I'm like... I feel like Kusanagi's like, I can't kill off Hawk, so let's do this instead. And I'm like, how? Oh my God. Another manga thing. The scriptwriter for the original story on the drama CD based it on a draft storyboard that I drew and added additional lines. I've included that draft at the end of this volume in the Japanese edition. It took up so many pages that we had no space for the pre-volume preview. Creating and checking scenarios for the drama CD while working on the series was a lot of work. The writers, the actors, and the staff worked hard on it. And between other jobs, I hope a lot of people enjoy listening to it. Aww. But yeah, so, oh my gosh. And then she thinks of Yuhan. And she connects him to Soo-Won. And she's still, in the back of her mind, she still can't quite get over that it's Yuhan's kid. But Neguro, my dude. And so he's like, use me however you must. And so she uses him as a shield to aim the arrows and everything. But, oh my gosh. And then the girl takes all of them. Ugh. And so, at that point, these mercenaries, they go down into the prison. They shoot Mazari in the chest with an arrow. But they make the mistake of thinking that the Dragon Warriors are just prisoners. And they're like, oh, we're going to leave you guys. And I'm like, oh my gosh. But Mazari, I thought that the one yelling on page 86, I thought the one yelling was Yoon. But it was Mazari yelling with the arrow through him. It's like, oh my gosh. And so then Kija, he's like, leave Mazari. Because it's funny, you have the 5 stars. I was trying to think which 5-star aligns with which 5-star. So Neguro aligns with Hawk. Clearly. Then you have Algira, who has the leg that he swings. He kind of goes along with Jeha, I suppose. Then you have Yokata, who goes along with Well, but Algira goes along with Jeha. Maybe Algira goes along with Zeno, maybe. And then you have Voldo, who kind of goes along with Sheena, maybe. I don't know. They're all interchangeable. Mazari, we see a parallel between Mazari and Kija. Both of them wanting to... Kija and Mazari both have that undying loyalty. For Mazari, it's to Corin. And for Kija, it's to Yona. So there's that undying loyalty there. So I definitely see the parallels between them. I see the parallels between Hawk and Neguro. As far as Jeha goes, you would think it would be Yukata, so that would put Zeno with Algira and maybe Sheena with Voldo. So maybe. Or maybe Sheena with Algira and Voldo with Zeno. Either way. But yeah, but that just Mazzari like looking and running forward to go after Corrin. And clearly there's been an establishment that Corrin gave these 5 stars a home, that maybe they were outcasts or had been abandoned, and she gave them a place and a purpose. At least for Yokata and Mazzari, that definitely seems to be the case, and for Naguro as well. We don't know a lot about Voldo and Algira's background. They seem more devoted towards Tao. But yeah, I love J.L. sitting there with his hair down, being like, we're nowhere near recovered. Like, we're still in sorry shape. But Sheena this volume, Sheena using the dragon eyes. He's been holding back. Zeno's like, all right, now's the time. Man, Kusanagi loves drawing them dragon eyes. I freaking love it. I loved how Kusanagi drew Sheena in this. Oh, it's so freaking good. He just looks terrifying. He's like, I can act now, can't I? God, I love it. So yeah, Voldo and Algira, they try to save everybody. Everything. They ask the 2 princesses to work together. Yona explains that if they go to meet Soo-Won, there's going to be a summit. There's going to be conditions, but it could stop the war. It could end the bloodshed. How about we do that? And then I love when Yona reconnects with Hawk. He's like, listen, don't leave my side anymore. It's pretty rough on me. Being a little bit selfish, being like, I don't want you to go anywhere. All right, we got a manga thing. The characters' ages during the Nation of Xing arc. Corrin is 27. Tao is 19. Voldo is 23. Algira is 19. Naguro is 35. He meets Ruri's qualifications. Yotaka is 24 and Mazzari is 16. People were very happy when I posted an age chart on Twitter. I'd like to create one for the other characters, but I really don't have the time. Eventually, I'd like to list them somewhere in the graphic novels. I was very busy between September and November, but it also seems I'll be busy until next March with my schedule and personal matters. I need to hang in there. Aw, hope she's okay. And then Mazzari seeing Naguro. And again, you have kind of like the Hawk and Kija parallels between Naguro and Mazzari. I like it. And then Naguro just died standing up. All right, R.I.P. Naguro. My dude. R.I.P. But Mazzari, he grabbed his hand, but then he saw the arrow coming and Naguro flung him backwards to save him. Like the final thing he did before he fell was save Mazzari. Oh my gosh. And then, oh, that look. There are times where Mazzari kind of looked like Kija, but then there are times he looks like Sheena and Zeno. Like, Mazzari looks just as deadly as a dragon, like in some of these panels. I'm like, that panel of him with the blood coming down where he's like, now I'm being more useful now, aren't I? I'm like, that panel is disturbing. It is so creepy. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, it is terrifying. And then, yeah, he just grabbed that soldier's head and stabbed him in the face with the arrow. Just once. Ooh, I'm on my way. Damn, I'm like, that Kusanagi, you ain't playing! Kusanagi's like, yeah, about that. She's like so cute as these squirrels and all these flowers, and then she's like, this guy just stabbed him in the face with an arrow. I hope that's okay. Like, oh my god. I love Yona doing the J-Hawk kick at the table to catch the arrows. So badass. Our girl in action. I love it. And so I love Corrin saying, I thought I would die on the battlefield, and the girl thought so too. She's like, I'm not dying here. I'm rejecting that fate. Oh, I love it. And then, of course, Jaeha and the others show up. He's like, sorry for the wait. I love that Jaeha put his hair back up in the ponytail. Mm-hmm. And then he's like, oh, being a captive prince was dull, so I decided to get out. But then, God, Sheena and his powers just making the guy think the dragon had ate his head off and decapitated him. Oh my god. Freaky stuff. But the problem is that them using their powers to save Yona and the others, it's outing them as dragon warriors, and now the world is going to like try to come and capture them or get them to use their powers for them. And Yona's like, I don't want that. So it's like, it's like a double-edged sword, right? You finally have this power to protect you, but now the world knows about it, and what are they going to do about it? It's like, it's opening a can of worms. And Sheena, oh, I love that he just like slumps over against Yona. Yeah, everybody is like worse for wear. Kija's like bloody, Jaeha's bloody. Zeno is the only one remotely okay, but he's immortal. He can't help it. And then Yuna's like, Hawk, quit getting stabbed with arrows. I love that Yuna's the audience. Like, quit taking arrows. He's like, arrow wounds are serious. Oh my God. And so I like the idea here that Korin asks her, do you have a personal grudge against Soo-Won? Like, as they're all tending their wounds. And Hawk's listening to this whole conversation. And Yona's like, I'm not sure. But I like that Yona says, somewhere in my heart, I still want to believe in him. But now I've let the hairpin go. She's like, I really don't know. I can't easily forgive him for what he did, but I don't want to live my life only focused on that. So she's like, I don't want to live my life focused on a grudge against him. She's like, I want to believe that he's good, that there's good in him. She's like, but I've let that part of me go. Like, my attachment to him is gone. Like, I want to still believe in him, and I don't want to burn the bridge completely, but I've let go of that attachment. I have other things to focus on. He is not my sole concern. And that's such growth for her, because she started out the series like only paying attention to him and only caring about him. And now she's like, no, there are much bigger fishes to fry. But she does bring up a good point to Korin. She's like, look, he is Yuhan's son, but if he really was as bad as you think he is, he wouldn't even entertain the idea of a summit. He wouldn't waste his time. He'd just go and start the war and wouldn't even acknowledge it being a possibility. And I like that Hawk thinks the same. Hawk is like, yeah, he would never waste his time that way. And I like that Hawk questions. He says, Her Highness let go of that hairpin, but what I do know is she won't avert her eyes anymore. Not out of fear of hatred, she's facing him head on. And then I love that Hawk's like, can I do that? Can I be calm in front of him? I like that Hawk's like, can I be as strong as Yona? It's like, so good. So yeah, and then Korin's questioning the same thing as well. But then we go back to Yutaka, and this whole thing with Yutaka of them playing the mind games with him and Teiyu taking charge is just, oh my God. But okay, so it says, about Sina's appearance. Sheena doesn't normally have X-ray vision. He can't see people or objects inside houses or behind walls, but he can sense where the dragon warriors are. He can see things in an empty field that's much farther away than what normal people could perceive, as well as people, animals, and bugs on a distant tree or mountain. But if he's blindfolded, his sight is restricted. But he can still vaguely see nearby things. Once his power is fully unleashed, he can see through various things, but it's quite risky. It quickly burns through his stamina, so he can't use it whenever he wants. Okay, so there's limits. We're setting limits to all their powers, right? Zeno's has a limit. It's got to be activated by hurting him. Sheena's has a limit of stamina. Jaeha's has a limit. Kija's has a limit. Like, everybody, they're not total OP monsters. They're just monsters. But yeah, this is so interesting that Prince, it's talking about like the hypocrisy with the religious angle here of how the priest, there's a hypocrisy to it, that he's basically saying the heavens will punish them and all this, and like, you know, we'll answer your prayers. Like, it's kind of just going through like the hypocritical side of everything concerning the church in this. And then, yeah. And then everything has trajectory. This guy, we talked about, this entire volume has been about either holding on to grudges or letting them go. And this one guy, he held that grudge against Yutaka because Mizari attacked his friend and made it to where he couldn't walk again. Yeah. And so it's just that grudge led him to stab Yutaka. And he's like, I won't hesitate if you try to harm Korin. And so that's when the priest throws the bomb that Yutaka's the only one still alive, and he gets so mad. The whole thing, you filth. And then Teiyu's like, what's going on? What should I do? I love these, like, what should I do? And then he decides, kind of like Hawk and Yona, that sense of justice, that sense of honor and dignity. He's like, that guy looks like he's in trouble, and he's about to get assassinated. I'm going to go save him because he's a friend of Hawk's friends. I love it. And so he just hops over the fence like it's nothing with that little glaive. Our boy. I like chapter 146 too. Justice as a convenient excuse. Yeah, just like a means to an end, right? Calling it justice, right? When it's just an excuse for violence. And to use people. I love that Taeyu, he's like, I'm not a kid. And so he gets the others involved with the Wind Tribe. And then he like picks up your talking. He's like, you're definitely coming with me. We got to keep you safe. And I love that every time he tries to bring up Voldo, and he's like, you know, you're Voldo's friends. He's like, don't mention Voldo's name. As he like passes out. If you've ever watched Mode Azushi, it reminds me a lot of Chirin. That Chirin like gets up and he's like, your flute music sucks. And he passes out. And it's like him going, I don't know anyone named Voldo, and like passes out. It's great. Okay, we got another manga thing here. It seems surprising that Taeyu is 17 in this story, but since Zeno is, or at least looks the same age, it doesn't seem possible, does it? Hawk is more unusual, being 6'2" and having those muscles at 18 years old. Hawk looks older, but compared to Jaeha, he's somewhat childlike. Despite how he looks, I'm always aware that Kija is older than Hawk when I draw him. If Hawk hadn't become a general and had lived peacefully in the city of Fuga, he might have turned out differently. Volume 25 has come to an end. As usual, there were hardly any romantic moments. Those of you who are starving for such things should look forward to the next volume. Hey! All right! So maybe volume 26 will get some romance amidst this war about to start and amidst the dragons protecting Yona. Okay. Thanks, Kusanagi, for getting our hopes up. So yeah, so Taeyu is like something bad's about to happen. There's about to be like all this civil unrest. They try to get the people to turn against Korin. And they said those monsters of Kohka are under Princess Korin's control. Let's go calm Kohka's fury. If you have a change of heart, I'm sure God will save you. So again, we have a big theme of this series is talking about the people versus God. And at this point, I think it's interesting to note that it's really interesting because Soo-Won's not wrong. Soo-Won is not wrong. We've seen in this volume that these people that are trying to use religion for their own corrupt means, it has consequences and they're not good, right? And so it makes sense that Soo-Won's like, yeah, let's not rely on that. Let's rely on ourselves and let's not turn to these false idols and these priests that are channeling what they say is God's will, but it's really their own. Let's not depend on those, right? And you could see where his dad, Yuhan, probably had the same thought, and that's why he drove out the priest to begin with. So there's that angle of it. But Soo-Won at first, when the story started, kind of didn't acknowledge any religious, he seemed kind of agnostic, like he didn't, or atheist, he didn't think any of that existed, when it clearly does in this series. There are clearly these godlike dragons, and there is clearly like a divine element to the story. But the funny thing is that in the reality of things, what we find out with Zeno is the divine elements don't really care. They're there, but they don't care. They only care about the Crimson Dragon King. These dragon gods don't care about anybody else but the Crimson Dragon King. That's the only one they care about. Everybody else are like, psh, whatever. So when Zeno makes his pleas to say Kaya, they don't care. They're like, no. The dragons are like, we don't care, no. So it's this interesting conversation that's developing in this series about finding this middle ground. And I think Yona's kind of the middle ground. Yona is the middle ground of it all. You have Soo-Won who doesn't want to do anything with the divine. He wants to just rely on the power of the people. And then you have kind of the opposites for like the zealots, like Priest Gobi and them, who are trying to use the divine as a crux to control people. And then you have Yona, who acknowledges that this divine power exists, but she's not going to use it. She's going to use her own power. So she's kind of this cool middle ground between that, which I really like. But yeah, so we have Hawk waking up. About time. And then I like that. I love when Yona tries to give a piggyback ride and just smoosh. Just get smooshed by him. And that's when Hawk's like, when all this is over, we have to talk. And she's like, oh, okay. And Zeno's like looking over forlorningly like, oh, I hope that goes well. Yeah, but then no, Zeno knows something is in the air. He's been in situations like this. Things are about to go down. And then there is like the priests, all the people, there's civil unrest. And that's when they try to capture these dragons. So they all try to capture them. And Zeno and Sheena and Kija and Jaeha, they're so weakened from everything that's gone on and being so far away from the palace, they can't do anything. So it sucks. And so then, Korin tries to defend herself. That doesn't work out. And so then she's like, you know what? She's like, my subordinates risk their lives in battle. And if you just denigrate them further, then you'll pay for it and I'll take your head. And she's like, tell me where your Taka is. And he's like, I don't know. And she's like, wow, you even hired mercenaries. And that's when Yona steps in. She's like, no, she's like, lower your weapons, both sides, hands down. And Hawk's like, what are you doing? And all of the dragons are like, oh my God, nope. Like even Zeno, like they all react to it. Like you see like the dragon leaving Kija's body, leaving Zeno, leaving Jeha, and like the eyes of Sheena. God, that image is so good. Oh my God. Like all of them rising up. And you see Sheena's dragon is the dark dragon. You see that Kija's is the dragon that takes the arrows head on. Has the hand over Yona. Oh my God. The spirits of the dragons. That panel is gorgeous. Like that's like Kusanagi, you outdid yourself. Oh my God. And then bloop. And then it's gone. It just disintegrated the arrows. That was it. And Yona's like, oh. Hawk's like, well, that's the legendary dragon warriors of Kohka. Oh, I can't wait for volume 26. I cannot wait. I cannot wait. Nope, cannot wait. Really excited. Looking forward to it. Mm-hmm. So then we have this little take care chapter, and it's really cute. And I love that Zeno is the ultimate wingman. Zeno, like, Hawk is just being unreasonable and won't sit down. So Zeno's like, what if you were in Yona's lap? And he's like, okay. I just love his groggy, sick voice. He's got such the man flu. The man flu, indeed. If you don't know what the man flu is, it's you know, it's pretty profiling. But like my brother and my father, they're never ill. They never catch a cold. They never get sick. But when they do, it's like the world is ending. Like my mother and I have had colds all the time. Like we get like the sniffles or something. We're like, it's fine. Just keep doing it. If my brother gets a cold, he's like, the world's ending. And I'm like, you have a cold. But that's how it is. And so we always call it the man flu. We're like, yeah, you're going to be fine. And Hawk is the same way. But I love that he just sits there on Yona's lap. And I love the idea that when Jeha says, you know, I won't interfere, have sweet dreams of you and Yona. And I love that Yona's like, Jeha doesn't get it. She's like, you're not happy being alone, and I'm not either. And he's like, is this psychological warfare? And when she says alone with you, he thinks that she doesn't want to be with him, but that's not it. She's like, if we had been by ourselves all this time, we would be miserable. Like it wouldn't be as wonderful as it is with all these people with us. She's like, aren't you glad it's not just the two of us? And he's like, yeah, I feel that way too. It's like, oh, it's like, it's so good. But then he ends up eating the cough drop anyway and going berserk. So there's that. But oh my God, what was this? What was the note here? For this volume cover, it's been a really long time since I've drawn these two together, Yona and Soo-Won. They aren't quite looking away from each other, but they aren't pointing swords at one another like on the cover of volume 3. It's a delicate and unusual relationship, so it was quite difficult to draw. Yeah, a delicate and unusual relationship indeed. Yeah, Yona and Soo-Won at this point in the story. Oh my gosh. That was amazing. I really liked that volume. It went by so quickly. I was like, it went by so fast, but it was so good. And now I'm ready for volume 26, I think. Oh God. I think I'm ready. I don't know though. But holy cow. Y'all, this volume was great. I really, really enjoyed it. I'm excited for more. I'm going to take a little bit of a break. At least let volume 24 come out on Patreon before reading the next volume. But oh my gosh. This was so much fun, y'all. I can't wait to hear your thoughts down below of what you guys thought of this volume. But now I'm like, the dragons have been captured. What are we going to do? How is Yona getting out of this? I just imagine Soo-Won is going to show up. But when and how and the circumstance, Are they going to take the dragons hostage since they're captive right there? Are they going to let them go? Kishuk is probably not going to want to let... If Soo-Won and them show up to have this summit, then I imagine Kishuk's going to be like, kill the dragons. And then what are we going to do about that? I mean, Zeno can't die. So, we shall see though, right? So I'm going to be curious how the next volume goes. But in the meantime, I hope you all had a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care. And yeah, I'll be back very soon with volume 26 of Yona of the Dawn.